The young man in yellow snorted coldly and spoke. 35,000 primordial crystals. 40,000. Song Zitsong remained calm, his expression unchanging, as though 40,000 primordial crystals were nothing more than a trifle to him. This abnormal scene immediately caught the attention of the surrounding cultivators, and their gazes towards Song Zitsong were filled with shock. As the first elder of the Jade Treasure Sect, Song Zitsong did not even regard the sect master of the Jade Treasure Sect with much respect. With many direct disciples under his command, he could easily oppose the sect master. Yet, this man remained unusually low-key. Because of this, the sect master had never questioned Song Zitsong's secret acquisition of immortal jade and his vast collection of primordial crystals. 50,000 primordial crystals. The young man in yellow stared at Song Zitsong, gritting his teeth. Song Zitsong sneered. He didn't care about exposing the fact that he had a large amount of primordial crystals. Even if it raised suspicions or attracted the attention of higher-ranked star domains, he was unconcerned. After today, he would leave and likely never return to Penglai again. Moreover, he had a great chance of success on this trip. If successful, his cultivation would skyrocket. What was there to fear? 60,000. Song Zitsong casually spoke as he cupped his hands behind his back. You. The young man in yellow took a deep breath. After a long pause, he was about to make another offer. 70,000. Song Zitsong coldly gazed at the young man, suddenly laughing. Your secret Luo sect doesn't have many people, and the journey from the 7th rank star domain is far. Be careful on your way back. The surroundings instantly fell silent. All eyes were on Song Zitsong. To threaten someone from a 7th rank star domain was extremely rare. What cards does Song Zitsong have up his sleeve to dare do this? The young man in yellow stared at Song Zitsong. After a long time, he snorted coldly and turned, transforming into a long rainbow that soared away, disappearing into the horizon. Song Zitsong remained unfazed. He cupped his hands toward Wang Lin, threw out a storage pouch, and with a motion of his right hand, took the armor into his grasp. After examining it carefully, a smile appeared on his face. Fellow Taoist Liu, the deposit is also in the storage pouch, a total of 80,000 primordial crystals. Shall we go? Wang Lin took the storage pouch, swept his divine sense across it, and discreetly put it away. Song Zitsong's cultivation was profound, and his mind was sharp, a ruthless character indeed. But no matter how sharp his mind was, it couldn't compare to Tianyunzi. Wang Lin had already clashed with Tianyunzi, so how could he fear someone like Song Zitsong? Nodding slightly, Wang Lin took a step forward and turned into a long rainbow, soaring into the sky. Song Zitsong laughed heartily and followed, both of them vanishing into the distance in an instant. Due to this event, the auction came to an abrupt end, and the crowd lost all interest, dispersing. Outside of Penglai continent, Wang Lin and Song Zitsong moved at incredible speeds, racing through the star mist. Just then, a faint flute melody drifted through the air, echoing within the star mist. In the distance, the mist swirled and parted, revealing Li Qianmei, her blue hair flowing as she slowly emerged from the mist. She looked at Wang Lin and smiled lightly. Wang Lin paused for a moment, silently contemplating. He then spoke to Song Zitsong beside him. Fellow Taoist Songzi, you go ahead. I will catch up shortly. Song Zitsong smiled faintly and handed Wang Lin a jade slip, saying, Fellow Taoist Liu, later go to the location marked on the star map. I, along with several old friends, will be waiting for you there. After speaking, he glanced at Li Qianmei, cupped his hands slightly, and sped off, disappearing into the star mist ahead, showing no concern that Wang Lin might not go. You've already left? Why have you returned? Wang Lin looked at Li Qianmei and asked calmly after a long silence. I was about to leave, but then I remembered you said you would escort me. Li Qianmei blinked and softly replied. Wang Lin furrowed his brow and said, I can escort you right here. With your cultivation, there shouldn't be much danger, but still, exercise caution. Who knows? Maybe after I leave, we may never meet again. This beast tide seems rather severe, judging by my master's tone. Li Qianmei shook her head and spoke softly. Wang Lin fell silent. Seeing Wang Lin remain quiet, Li Qianmei furrowed her brow and sighed lightly. Song Zitsong's actions are quite suspicious. I had originally planned to go with you. Li Qianmei gently bit her lip and looked at Wang Lin. She took off a green bracelet from her right hand and handed it to him. You answered 3 of my questions before. We agreed that each answer would be a similar item. I haven't given you the item for the 3rd question. This is a protective treasure. Keep it for your safety, she said, placing the bracelet in Wang Lin's hand. Wang Lin looked at Li Qianmei, his expression somewhat complex. He glanced at the bracelet, still warm with her body temperature, and shook his head, handing it back to her. Why not take it? Li Qianmei asked serenely, looking at Wang Lin. It's too valuable. I cannot accept it, Wang Lin said as he cupped his hands toward her and began to turn away. Li Qianmei's expression remained calm. She flicked her wrist, and the bracelet immediately turned into a green light, vanishing into the star mist. If you won't take it, neither will I. Wang Lin remained silent, gazing at Li Qianmei. If you don't want what I offered, then take back this painting scroll as well. With a wave of her delicate hand, a scroll appeared in Li Qianmei's palm, which she handed to Wang Lin. The rivers and lakes I painted are beautiful, but they lack a certain vitality. I added a few strokes myself, she said calmly. Taking the scroll, Wang Lin didn't open it. Instead, he stood still for a moment, then reached out into the air. A storage rift opened before him, and a beam of golden light shot out from within. It landed in his hand. The light faded, revealing a brush. Holding the brush, Wang Lin gave it a gentle wave, and a rune began to take shape. His hand moved swiftly, continuously tracing over the rune until it became increasingly intricate. Only then did he stop. This brush is an immortal treasure. Use it in combination with these runes. With your cultivation base, it will allow you to unleash immense power. As he let go, the golden brush floated in midair, surrounded by a soft glow. Without another glance at Li Qianmei, Wang Lin turned and transformed into a streak of light, soaring into the distance. You answered my 3 questions. I won't let you get away so easily, Li Qianmei said with a soft smile as she looked in the direction Wang Lin had gone. She lifted a flute to her lips and began to play. The melody drifted, ethereal and haunting, echoing through the star mist. Far away, Wang Lin heard the tune. He glanced down at the painting scroll in his hands and finally opened it. The rivers and lakes were gone, now replaced by a barren dryness. On a dried riverbed, 2 fish clung closely together, sharing each other's breath in mutual survival. Wang Lin furrowed his brow and let out a bitter smile. He stored the scroll away and, accompanied by the distant flute music, continued on his path. After a long while, Li Qianmei lowered her flute. With a wave of her hand, she retrieved the golden brush and, stepping onto the void, slowly walked away. According to the star map marked in Songzitsang's jade slip, Wang Lin moved like lightning, flashing through the star mist, heading directly for the marked location. But a moment later, his figure halted. He stared ahead, dazed. Not far in front of him, amid the star mist, a glimmer of emerald green light flickered. It was a jade bracelet, floating in midair. Neither Wang Lin nor Li Qianmei had expected that her casual toss would send the bracelet along the very route indicated by the star map. Even so, the star mist was vast beyond imagining. Even being on the same path, spotting the bracelet was no different from finding a needle in the ocean. Staring silently at the jade bracelet for a long time, Wang Lin reached out and grasped it from the air. With a quiet sigh, he flew off into the distance. In the star mist near the 5th-rank star domain Penglai, there was a small stretch of the primordial continent. Few fierce beasts roamed there, and rarely did cultivators pass by. But at this moment, 3 cultivators sat cross-legged on that land. Songzitsang, the location of that place is one of our greatest secrets. Why did you bring that man Lu along? The speaker was an old man with a deeply wrinkled face, one of those who had met Wang Lin at Songzitsang's private gathering. Seated cross-legged, Songzitsang responded calmly. That man can use the soul subjugation seal. With his help, my chances of success increase by another 20%. Also, I'll be counting on fellow Taoist Zhao's divine art to clear the way. Once it's done, as agreed, Zhao may choose any 3 items first. His gaze shifted to another person, an old woman in green robes, someone Wang Lin also knew. I'll do my best, she rasped. At that moment, the mist above the primordial continent roiled. A sharp, chilling laugh echoed as the fog was suddenly swept aside. From within walked an elderly man dressed in black and white Taoist robes, a Taoist crown atop his head. With just a few steps, he arrived beside the trio as though the ground had shrunk beneath his feet. As he appeared, a thick stench of blood spread outward. Behind him, countless ghostly souls writhed within the mist, occasionally revealing their faces, wailing in voiceless torment. Songzi Tsong, I ran into an old enemy on the way. That's why I'm late, the old man said. His face was deathly pale, but his eyes gleamed with a sinister light. Yin Hunzi. The wrinkled elder's gaze sharpened at the sight of the crowned man. The man sneered, his face twitching slightly. Fellow Taoist Pang, we meet again. He glanced at the old woman in green, then fixed his gaze on Songzi Tsong. Only the four of us this time, he asked. There are 3 more. They should be arriving soon, Songzi Tsong said with a slow lick of his lips. Just as he finished speaking, the star mist ahead surged again, clouds swirling as a figure emerged. Clad in white, with black hair flowing and cold eyes gleaming, Wang Lin stepped out of the mist and looked at the 4 before him. A youngster at the early pure nirvana stage? Songzi Tsong, you're involving someone that weak in this. Yun Hunzi's brow furrowed. He's no ordinary pure nirvana cultivator, Songzi Tsong replied with a smile. Oh. Yun Hunzi's gaze flickered, and the moment Wang Lin drew closer, he waved his right hand forward. Instantly, countless wraiths behind him howled as they surged toward Wang Lin. As Yun Hunzi swung his sleeves, an endless sea of wraiths rushed forward with a deafening howl, heading straight for Wang Lin to devour him. Wang Lin's gaze shifted. His right hand clenched into a fist, and with a powerful strike, a tremendous force shot forward, colliding with the incoming wraiths from afar. A thunderous boom echoed across the heavens and earth, shaking the surrounding star mist violently. The wraiths were immediately swept away like fallen leaves in a storm, accompanied by mournful shrieks. A small portion of them collapsed instantly. Wang Lin staggered back, retreating 5 steps. With each step, the ground trembled, leaving behind deep footprints. After the 5th step, his complexion was slightly pale. He stared at Song Songzi and said in a deep voice, Song Songzi, what is the meaning of this? Song Songzi laughed heartily, rising to his feet and waving his right hand. A burst of golden light flashed before it turned into thousands of flying swords, howling as they converged together. With a series of sharp, cracking sounds, the swords formed a barrier, blocking the wraith's continued attack. Yin Hunzi, this friend Taoist LV is a distinguished guest I invited. Please, show some respect. Yun Hunzi, wearing a Taoist crown, cast a cold glance at Wang Lin. With a grin that didn't reach his eyes, he said, a hiding, tail-showing individual, yet surprisingly possesses the divine art of shattered nirvana. As he spoke, his right hand reached out, and the endless wraiths before him immediately shrank and gathered behind him. They transformed into 9 massive soul flames, crackling with fire and circling around his body. Taoist LV, Yin Hunzi was merely testing your cultivation level. He holds no ill intent. Please, do not take it to heart. Song Songzi smiled, cupping his hands in greeting. Wang Lin's expression darkened, and he said nothing as he sat cross-legged nearby, his face a mask of neutrality. His thoughts were concealed from others. Song Songzi inwardly sneered. He exchanged a subtle glance with Yun Hunzi before quickly averting his gaze. This person certainly has the ability to kill Wu Qing, but he still falls short when compared to us mid-shattered nirvana cultivators. If I act alone, I could kill him in 10 breaths. If you and I team up, we can kill him instantly. Yun Hunzi's divine sense transmitted to Song Songzi's mind. What's most troublesome about this person isn't his suspected identity as a disciple of the divine sect, but the fact that though he appears to be a pure nirvana cultivator, his divine art is capable of slaying even Wu Qing. Clearly, he has concealed his true cultivation level. Without knowing his actual strength, it will hinder our plans. But from what I saw of your actions, I am somewhat reassured. Still, this person is deep in scheming, so seize an opportunity to probe him again. Song Songzi closed his eyes, sending his divine sense to Yun Hunzi. Yun Hunzi's eyes gleamed, his approval clear. Wang Lin, seated cross-legged, lowered his head slightly, preventing anyone from seeing the cold glint flashing through his eyes. Although his earlier strike appeared to be his full strength, he had actually held back. Facing these ancient monsters, it would be foolish to reveal all his strength. Mid-shattered nirvana, truly powerful. The heavenly energy within their divine art alone far exceeds what a beginner can contend with, like the difference between a youth and a strong man. But if I were to go all out, using a magical artifact, I wouldn't necessarily lose. What I need to be cautious of is Tsang Songzi, and this one's joint ambush, Wang Lin thought to himself, his face betraying no emotion. The entire scene had been observed by the pockmarked Elder Pang, who had kept silent, rotating the ring on his finger and occasionally glancing at Tsang Songzi. Then there was the elderly woman in green, sitting calmly with her eyes closed, meditating and seemingly indifferent to the earlier events. Time passed, and on this primordial continent shrouded by star mist, day and night merged indistinguishably. After an hour or so, suddenly, a sword beam howled from the distance within the starry mist. The sword light was incredibly sharp, imbued with a fierce sword aura. The sword's whistle echoed like thunder, but the mist showed no sign of disturbance as the light pierced straight through, racing towards the five. Before it even neared, a dominating sword aura swept across the sky, casting a powerful and supreme presence over the land. Tsang Songzi looked up, smiling. With a sharp clang, the sword light flashed and landed, embedding itself in the ground several feet in front of Elder Pang. It was a 7-foot-long sword, 2 fingers wide, gleaming silver. Its blade shimmered with flowing light, resembling a watermark, and exuded a chilling aura. Golden tassels fluttered from the sword's hilt, stirring the air and creating ripples that intensified. From within, a figure emerged. The person was short in stature, resembling a young disciple at first glance. However, upon closer inspection, one could see his features distorted, his face pale and ghostly, a terrifying sight. If an ordinary person were to look, they would likely be so frightened that they would die on the spot. He fell from the void and stood next to the sword. His height was barely half the length of the sword. Songzi Tsang, what kind of star map did you give me? I've searched for a long time before finally finding it. The young disciple's voice was sharp, and as he spoke, he sat cross-legged by the sword. His gaze was dark as he swept over the people around him, pausing for a moment when his eyes landed on Wang Lin, though he said nothing. Songzi Tsang smiled even more widely, laughing as he said, "Fellow Taoist Duanmu, this is not my fault. You simply couldn't find it yourself." The young disciple snorted coldly and said sharply, "You claimed there was a samsara pill in that place. Is that true?" "Absolutely true." Songzi Tsang nodded seriously. "I couldn't enter the interior before, but from the outskirts, I saw a samsara pill. Unfortunately, there were fierce beasts nearby, and I couldn't take it." "What kind of fierce beast?" the young disciple asked. "A 12th rank mist dragon," Songzi Tsang replied. The young disciple fell silent, his gaze flickering. "Samsara pill." Wang Lin listened to the conversation with an unchanged expression, but his heart stirred. He had never heard of the samsara pill before, and judging by Songzi Tsang's demeanor, it didn't seem like the main focus of his journey. As Wang Lin pondered, he glanced at the young disciple. The disciple was also at the mid-shattered nirvana stage. "Not leaving yet. Is someone else coming?" After a moment of hesitation, the young disciple looked at Songzi Tsang and spoke. "One more person is missing." Before Songzi Tsang could finish his sentence, he suddenly looked toward the distance. At the same time, the young disciple and Yun Hunzi turned their eyes toward the same direction. Wang Lin clearly felt the ground tremble faintly, and his gaze followed. In the mist that shrouded the depths of the primordial continent, a tall figure was approaching step by step. As it grew closer, it became evident that it was a large man in purple robes. As he approached, the ground shook more violently, and countless small stones flew around. Just as the large man arrived in front of them, Wang Lin's eyes narrowed sharply. He studied the man's back carefully and saw the mist swirling around him, with a number of fierce beasts following. Although not many, there were still hundreds, and their ranks were not high. In the blink of an eye, the large man reached the group and gave them a cold glance. His voice was calm as he slowly said, "Shin Tianjun has already arrived." Without any movement from him, at the moment his words fell, the hundreds of fierce beasts behind him roared in unison. In the earth-shaking roar, several of the beasts' bodies exploded into blood and flesh, and then all the remaining beasts howled and collapsed, dying one by one. As the beasts perished, the ground was dyed red, and the stench of blood immediately filled the air. Meanwhile, beast souls flew from the collapsing corpses, rushing toward the large man. They quickly condensed in front of him, eventually forming a black vortex, which the man squeezed with his right hand. The vortex immediately solidified into a black pill. I arrived early and took the liberty of refining the beasts here, the large man said calmly, swallowing the pill. Beast taming sect. Xun'er's expression grew serious as he cupped his hands toward the large man and said in a deep voice, "May I ask which friend of the beast taming sect you are?" "I am Xun'er, and I have ties with fellow Taoist Butianzi from your sect." The young disciple also stiffened, cupping his hands toward the large man. "Butianzi is my senior brother. I am Chun Tianjun," the large man replied evenly, his expression slightly haughty. "This person is at the early shattered nirvana stage, but his presence has made even those mid-shattered nirvana old monsters cautious. Clearly, it's not just his sect's name, but the unique divine abilities of the beast-taming sect that make him significant. Moreover, he claims to have arrived earlier, yet no one noticed him. This is very suspicious." Wang Lin's gaze lingered on the large man for a moment before he withdrew it. Indeed, the beast-taming sect's concealment techniques are impressive. I didn't even notice that Brother Chun had already arrived. I am truly impressed. Song Zitsong rose and cupped his hands in admiration. Chun Tianjun nodded slightly, speaking calmly. "Song Zitsong, I have been summoned by the 9th rank star domain. I must return to my sect and join my fellow disciples. Time is of the essence. We must proceed quickly." Song Zitsong nodded and swept his gaze over the crowd. His voice grew solemn as he said, "I am deeply grateful to all of you for coming. Each of us will gain something from this trip, and I assure you, none of you will leave empty-handed." He paused for a moment before looking at Wang Lin. "Fellow Taoist Liu, apart from the primordial crystal, you may also select a few treasures as my token of appreciation for your assistance." Wang Lin nodded, remaining silent. "I won't waste any more words. Once we arrive at our destination, I will explain everything in detail. Please, follow me." After speaking, he cupped his hands again, stepped forward, and transformed into a shooting rainbow as he sped into the starry mist. The elder, surnamed Pang, followed close behind, while the elderly woman in the green robe rose and flew after him as well. Chun Tianjun, the burly man from the beast-taming sect, gave a slight shudder as 2 clusters of black mist swirled beneath his feet, transforming into 2 eagle-shaped beast souls that soared up to follow. "Fellow Taoist Liu, please," Xun'er said with a half-smile, his gaze falling on Wang Lin. Wang Lin's expression remained calm as he rose into the air, with Xun'er bringing up the rear, his eyes coldly fixed on Wang Lin ahead. The 6 of them turned into 6 streaks of light, streaking across the starry sky, with Song Zitsong leading the way. Relying on his mid-shattered nirvana stage cultivation base, Song Zitsong flew with blinding speed like thunder and lightning. The others, not to be left behind, all activated their cultivation to keep pace. As a result, Wang Lin naturally began to fall behind. After all, he hadn't truly reached the shattered nirvana stage. Yet without a change in expression, he quietly took out a speed rune. A storm instantly surged around him, propelling him forward like a launched arrow. They sped through the void for days. As the surrounding star mist grew thicker, they gradually reached the very depths of the 5th rank star domain. A dark shadow appeared faintly ahead. It was clearly a primordial continent. "This is the place," Song Zitsong called out as he dashed ahead, drawing near the continent. Though not vast, the land was dotted with fierce beasts, and from its surface, beastly roars echoed endlessly from afar. Very few know about this primordial continent, and even those who do would never uncover the secret I've hidden here. A faint smile appeared on Song Zitsong's face, a look of reminiscence flickering in his eyes as he stared at the continent before him. "Fellow Taoist Pang, I'll trouble you to kill all cultivators currently on this primordial continent." Song Zitsong turned to the pockmarked old man. Elder Pang gave a slight nod and disappeared on the spot. His divine sense swept out as he moved across the continent, searching relentlessly. Any cultivator he found hunting beasts, regardless of sect or cultivation, was executed on the spot. Wang Lin looked down at the land beneath them, an inexplicable sense of unease creeping into his heart. He couldn't pinpoint what was wrong, only that something felt off. He crouched down, scooped up a handful of soil, and examined it carefully. The elderly woman in the green robe's gaze flickered as well. She scanned the surroundings, her expression turning grave. Yun Hunzi watched Wang Lin with a cold sneer in his heart. The secret of this primordial continent couldn't possibly be discovered in such a short time. Only one who had lived here for years might sense it. The young disciple furrowed his brow, glancing around, lost in thought. Only Chen Tianjun remained utterly still, seated cross-legged, breathing in and out with closed eyes. Before long, Elder Pang returned and gave Songzi Tsang a slight nod without saying a word. Excitement flickered in Songzi Tsang's eyes. He took a deep breath, then formed a hand seal. With a sweeping motion of his arms, the heaven and earth energy roared to life, swirling around him and churning the mists into a massive vortex. His white hair fluttered wildly despite the still air. Letting out a low shout, he suddenly pressed both hands down hard toward the earth. A thunderous boom echoed out. The ground began to quake. Faint rumblings rolled through the air, and with cracking sounds, the earth splintered apart. Massive fissures like writhing dragons snaked outward into the distance. The tremors intensified. In the eastern part of the continent, a towering mountain peak suddenly radiated a dazzling light. At that very moment, similar light erupted from peaks to the north, south, and west. The brilliance from the four mountain peaks grew stronger and then abruptly burst outward. From high above, it became clear that the rays from these peaks were connecting, forming a four-mountain formation. Inside the formation, the ground shook and shattered. Chunks of rock rose into the air. In the blink of an eye, the earth within the four-mountain formation began to peel away as if a layer were being stripped, collapsing piece by piece and sending more debris floating upward. Wang Lin stared solemnly as the fragments floated into the air. The land had been leveled, smooth as a mirror, without a single uneven patch. Beneath it lay a colossal rune imprint. The rune had been etched into the earth through divine art and covered nearly the entire primordial continent. The stones above had merely been added later to conceal it. As the stones drifted into the starry sky and vanished, a jolt shot through Wang Lin's mind like a lightning strike. He stared at the dissipating fragments, at their rising and dispersing pattern. Suddenly, he understood what had felt off about this place. This primordial continent was completely motionless. In the Cloud Sea Star domain, most continents were not fixed. They drifted slowly through the void. The movement was so subtle that it was nearly imperceptible, especially to mortals. But for cultivators who had reached a high enough level, one could, if calm enough, faintly sense the path of their drift. Wang Lin was not a local cultivator of the Cloud Sea Star domain. The star domain he previously resided in was composed entirely of planets, not floating continents like this one. Therefore, he was the first to clearly notice something unusual. Local cultivators, accustomed to their surroundings, would likely overlook it due to their habitual thinking. The still primordial continent. Wang Lin's eyes flickered. Between the four mountain formations, not a single piece of shattered stone remained on the ground. Songzi Tsang sat cross-legged, and with a wave of his right hand, a storage rift appeared in front of him. Crystals of light flickered as immortal jade flew out from it, and as they hit the ground, their immortal power dissipated instantly, turning to ash. As the immortal jade continued to dissolve, the land absorbed the rich immortal power. Gradually, the runic marks on the ground became clearer, emitting a soft glow. In the short span of an incense stick's burning time, hundreds of thousands of immortal jades had disintegrated. The runic marks grew brighter and brighter, until, in the end, they illuminated the primordial continent as if it were daylight. Immortal formation, activate! Songzi Tsang roared. His voice boomed like thunder, reverberating across the heavens and earth. In an instant, the runic marks on the ground flickered violently, and the booming sounds shook the world. Wang Lin distinctly felt that, after absorbing enough immortal power, the marks spread throughout the entire continent. Then, the primordial continent suddenly began to move. It was not shaking, but rather shifting. The continent was moving northward. The movement was noticeable, and the speed of the land's movement was already incredibly fast. Not only Wang Lin, but also the young disciple, Chen Tianjun, and the elderly woman in the green robe were all moved by it, and they all spread their divine sense to observe more closely. As the continent moved faster and faster with the flashing runic marks, it didn't take long before, amid the thunderous rumblings, the entire continent had shifted, revealing the spot where the continent had once been. There, in the center of where the primordial continent had been, a small fissure emitting 7-colored light appeared. The fissure was not large, only about half a foot wide, but the radiant 7-colored light made it exceptionally dazzling and eye-catching in the starry sky. This is... The young disciple gasped, staring at the 7-colored fissure. His twisted features grew even more terrifying with his excitement. What a grand move! Chen Tianjun, the muscular man from the beast-taming sect, glanced at Songzi Tsang, and his gaze shifted to the 7-colored fissure. This primordial continent did not exist here. Many years ago, I passed by accident when this fissure first appeared. To hide it, I moved a continent from another location to cover it up, so that outsiders wouldn't discover it. Songzi Tsang chuckled, his voice full of pride. Where does this 7-colored fissure lead? The elderly woman in the green robe asked, her gaze fixed on the fissure. You'll know when we get there. Songzi Tsang laughed heartily. Under his control, the continent beneath their feet moved faster, and soon it had shifted far away, distancing itself from the 7-colored fissure. This fissure is unstable, so we cannot enter directly. If 2 of us were to enter, the fissure would collapse. While it wouldn't disappear, it would shrink, and it would be difficult to return. Therefore, we must use this primordial continent as a guide and crash into it, which will cause the fissure to expand. We must enter in an instant. With the imprint from the continent, the fissure won't collapse, and when we return, the impact will be minimized. As Songzi Tsang explained, the 7-colored fissure became increasingly distant in their sight. The continent moved faster beneath their feet, but suddenly, it came to a halt. Songzi Tsang formed a hand seal, pressing both palms to the ground. The continent shook violently, and it began moving at an even faster speed, heading straight for the 7-colored fissure. The speed grew more intense, reaching its peak in no time. The continent shook violently, and large chunks of stone broke away from its edges. From above, in the starry sky, one could clearly see that the speed of the continent's impact was no less than that of a shattered nirvana cultivator, perhaps even faster. Booms echoed across the starry sky as the continent's speed accelerated. The people standing on the continent all grew solemn, their gazes fixed on the increasingly close 7-colored fissure, their minds fully focused. In the blink of an eye, the continent crashed into the 7-colored fissure with a thunderous roar, shaking the starry sky. In that instant, the 7-colored light within the fissure flashed wildly, illuminating the surrounding stars. With the impact of the continent, the fissure seemed to be forcibly torn open, instantly widening. Go! As Songzi Tsang's voice echoed, he lunged forward and charged into the fissure. The others immediately followed at full speed, stepping into the fissure right behind him. At this moment, only Yunhunzi and Wang Lin remained outside. Yunhunzi stood behind Wang Lin, his gaze cold and piercing. Wang Lin snorted inwardly but didn't slow down, charging straight toward the rift. Just as he was about to step into it, a glint of cold light flashed in his eyes. He suddenly turned around. Yunhunzi's eyes narrowed sharply. In that very instant, as Wang Lin turned, his right hand flicked through the air. An iron sword appeared abruptly in his grasp. Though rust-covered, the iron sword emanated a power so vast it seemed capable of shaking the heavens. Wang Lin had secretly observed the young disciple, surnamed Duanmu, throughout the journey. He concluded this youth was ruthless and manipulative, merely exploiting his relationship with Songzi Tsang. As for Chen Tianjun of the beast-taming sect, his ties to Songzi Tsang didn't appear particularly close either, likely a schemer as well. Only 2 people, it seemed, truly had deep bonds with Songzi Tsang, the elder surnamed Pang, and Yunhunzi. Wang Lin deduced that Songzi Tsang had dared to invite so many because Yunhunzi was by his side. With Yunhunzi and Elder Pang together, they were essentially invincible within this group. Thus, if Yunhunzi could be crippled, it would be like cutting off one of Song Zitsang's arms. And given Yunhunzi's hostility and constant, subtle surveillance of him, Wang Lin had long decided he couldn't allow them a chance to join forces. He had to strike first. Now was the perfect opportunity. Mid-shattered nirvana stage. The thought of fighting such a cultivator stirred Wang Lin's spirit. As he turned, the iron sword in his hand swept upward and then slashed down with brutal force. The power of a next-space nirvana magical artifact erupted. World-shaking sword energy surged forth, roaring toward Yunhunzi. Yunhunzi's expression shifted. He wasn't far from Wang Lin and was standing near the Rainbow Rift. There was no time to hesitate. As the sword light neared, he growled lowly, forming a hand seal and thrusting both arms forward. Soul flame burst from his body, rushing to clash against the sword light. The soul flame shot straight at Wang Lin, colliding with the sword light in an instant. A deafening boom echoed out, but the soul flame shattered immediately, unable to stop the piercing blade aura. At that critical moment, Yunhunzi's eyes flared in fury. As the sword light descended, he bit his tongue and spat out a mouthful of essence blood. The blood turned into a crimson mist, forming a ghostly skull that opened its jaws and devoured the sword light. An earth-shaking explosion rang out. Yunhunzi's body trembled, his face instantly turning pale as shock filled his eyes. But with his mid-shattered nirvana stage cultivation, Wang Lin's strike was not enough to severely injure him. Still, the clash forced Wang Lin back several steps, his essence spirit shaken. He was just about to vanish into the rift. "You dare court death!" Yunhunzi roared, charging forward. His speed was astonishing, closing the distance in a blink. There was no time for Wang Lin to fully unleash the sword's technique. A flicker of icy light crossed his eyes. This outcome was within his expectations. A mid-shattered nirvana stage cultivator couldn't be slain so easily. His goal had never been to kill, only to wound and prepare for what came next. As Wang Lin's body retreated, nearly disappearing into the rift, Yunhunzi closed in, one foot already stepping into the rift. He raised his right hand, about to unleash a divine art, when suddenly, a strange smile crept onto Wang Lin's face. He growled, "Freeze." In that moment, his immortal power surged wildly within him and burst forth as the immortal art of immobilization, enveloping Yunhunzi. In the blink of an eye, Yunhunzi's body froze. Though his cultivation allowed him to quickly shatter the invisible threads formed by the art, that slight pause was enough. Wang Lin's body fully entered the rift, and in that instant, his sword flashed toward Yunhunzi's head. Simultaneously, his right hand formed a fist and struck out, imbued with the power of the ancient god. A thunderous boom followed. Yunhunzi broke free from the immobilization just as the sword slashed down. He managed to dodge the lethal blow, but with a pained cry, his right arm was sliced off, blood spraying into the air. Then came the ancient god's punch, landing as Yunhunzi tried to rise. Though his divine art absorbed much of the force, it still knocked his body askew as he stepped into the rift. Terror surged in Yunhunzi's eyes. Within the rift, an unstable, near-teleportation zone. Changing position even slightly could mean disaster, potentially flinging him to some unknown location in the moment of traversal. Wang Lin had traveled through space rifts many times before. Though he had never entered the Rainbow Rift, he knew all interworld rifts shared this risk, and this one was clearly unstable. Thus, his true aim had never been to kill a mid-shattered nirvana stage cultivator. It was to injure Yunhunzi and throw him off balance at the critical moment of crossing. All of this happened in the blink of an eye, too fast to be believed. The moment Wang Lin entered the rift, his vision blurred, and his essence spirit was violently repelled by the body immobilization art. Yet, he forcefully suppressed it. When his vision cleared, he found himself in a strange world. This world had both sky and earth, but the sky shimmered with seven-colored light, and everything on the ground was bathed in the same radiant hues. However, the world was not clear. Mist was swirling in many areas. Only a few spots remained free from mist. Without carefully examining the scenery, Wang Lin's gaze shifted. He looked around at the others who had been teleported in with him. Notably, Yunhunzi was absent. Wang Lin breathed a sigh of relief. He had been gambling on this. and now he understood that he had won the bet. It had been an incredibly close call. Xun'er's divine ability had been interrupted by the body immobilization art before he could act. If his ability had been allowed to manifest, the battle would not have ended so quickly. The group was in a place that resembled an altar, only about 100 meters in size. The elderly man with the surname Peng looked ahead, his face filled with nostalgia and a hint of melancholy. This was his third time here. He remembered the first time when all his old friends had perished. The second time, some had died again. Now, only 3 remained, including himself, and he couldn't help but sigh inwardly. The young disciple with the surname Duanmu glanced around, his eyes glinting as he licked his lips and muttered to himself, "That mist isn't star mist." Beside him, Chen Tianjun from the beast-taming sect was extremely excited after arriving. He took several deep breaths, his eyes gleaming with a strange light. Only the elderly woman in green had a furrowed brow, as if deep in thought. Song Zitsang's expression was one of excitement, but his gaze suddenly hardened as he looked at Wang Lin. He said solemnly, "Fellow Taoist Lu, where is Xun'er?" Wang Lin's expression remained calm as he frowned and replied, "How would I know where he went? Xun'er was just behind you. You two were the last to enter. Could something have happened outside?" Song Zitsang frowned, his earlier good mood quickly evaporating, replaced by a dark cloud of suspicion. "I am unaware of any incidents outside, but before entering the rift, I saw nothing unusual," Wang Lin said flatly. "Fellow Taoist Lu, I paid attention earlier, and Xun'er was not far from you. It makes no sense that you entered while he disappeared." Elder Pang stared at Wang Lin, speaking slowly. Song Zitsang's expression darkened, his gaze fixed on Wang Lin as his anger surged. The conversation among the 3 drew the attention of the other cultivators. The young disciple with the surname Duanmu laughed loudly, saying, "Interesting, someone actually disappeared when entering a rift." The elderly woman in green glanced at Wang Lin, but remained silent. Chen Tianjun from the beast-taming sect frowned, not caring for the conversation. His focus was entirely on the distant mist, his expression one of fervor. "Elder Pang, be careful with your words. If you speak recklessly, you may find yourself in fatal peril." Wang Lin sneered, shooting a glance at the elderly man with the surname Pang. Elder Pang's heart jolted as he recalled Wu Qing's death and secretly regretted speaking out. He turned his gaze to Song Zitsang. "Fellow Taoist Lu, I request an explanation from you." Song Zitsang stared at Wang Lin. He knew that Xun'er had been monitoring the young man in white, and now, with his disappearance, the suspicion fell squarely on him. "Ridiculous." Wang Lin laughed furiously, his gaze cold as he looked at Song Zitsang and sneered. "Xun'er's cultivation is in the mid-shattered nirvana stage. I am no match for him. Song Zitsang, if you want an explanation from me, I have none to offer. He has legs and a brain. If he wanted to go somewhere, do you think he needed to report to me? It's utterly absurd. If you want to find a reason to challenge me, then I'll accompany you to the end." His eyes flashed with cold light, and his words were sharp. "Interesting," the young disciple with the surname Duanmu said as he glanced at Wang Lin and then spoke to Song Zitsang in a sharp tone. "But fellow Taoist Songzi, what Lu Taoist says makes sense. Xun'er has legs and a brain. Maybe he didn't want to come in, or perhaps he didn't want to be with us and went to another location in this place." Song Zitsang's brows furrowed deeper. He also harbored doubts about the situation. With Xun'er's cultivation, unless this fellow Lu had concealed an incredibly high level of cultivation, there was no way he could have killed Xun'er so quickly. His gaze swept over Wang Lin. Song Zitsang dismissed the idea that Xun'er had been killed, especially since, like him, Xun'er had been to this place before and had entered twice previously. Could it be? Could Xun'er have known of another passageway? Did he use some special method to change direction and be sent elsewhere at the moment of entry? It's possible, but it could also be that this Lu person fought with Xun'er, sending him to another location when crossing the rift. But if that were the case, why did this Lu person arrive unscathed? Song Zitsang was uncertain in his heart, but forced himself to suppress it. He turned to Wang Lin, clasped his fists, and said solemnly, "I was rash, fellow Taoist Lu. Please don't take offense." Wang Lin let out a cold snort and gave a slight cupped fist salute, but said nothing. At this moment, Deep within the space, shrouded in multicolored radiance, in a mist-enshrouded valley at its very depths, Yun Hunzi sat cross-legged with a pale face, his eyes darting around anxiously. Though no more blood flowed from his right arm, his expression was marked by a trace of fear. Damn it! I was actually transported here. His heart trembled as he licked his dry lips, casting a deeply wary glance toward the thick mist at the valley's entrance. Faintly, roars and waves of bloody wind echoed from within the fog.